Hello.
Hi. I almost said good morning. It's not morning, is it?
Sorry. No. Hey, it's Roy and Val. Thanks for joining us today. And sorry we're a couple minutes late. But as always, there's a lot going on here at Delphi. So Val's teaching a class and had to sneak away. I got stuck by a customer.
I was going to say, and then you had your own issues. Yeah.
So things happen. But anyways, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to talk about sandblasting a little bit. And so along that line, we're going to talk about two different sandblasters that we have or offer at Delphi. The first one is this nice little small one. This is really more for like, home studio, especially if you don't have a lot of space, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty nice.
It is a nice size. It really is.
Yeah, and it's really nice size. I mean, look at the opening, right? So I think you can put like an 18-inch piece in here, which is pretty nice.
I like the color.
Well, that's really the fun thing. You're not going to lose it, right? You're going to always know.
You're going to be able to see it.
You're going to know where it's at. Mm-hmm. So if you took that quick little brief look inside, it does come with gloves. So the gloves are already in it. So this unit, it's on our website. It is a little assembly, so not a bunch, but you do have to, I think you have to like put the legs together, so it's nothing too super complicated. The directions are really pretty good. I mean, they're thorough. They're certainly pretty thorough about putting it together. This sandblaster is what we call a siphon feed sandblaster. So what that means is there's a tube that's resting in the bottom of the sandblaster. I'll open it up. I don't know if you can see it because it's kind of, I got sand in there, so you probably can't see it.
Right.
Because it's covered underneath this
but the
grate.
The bottom of it kind of slopes into a V.
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the hose is down in there, and it's fixed down there, so it can't move, which is nice. And then so as you hook it to an air compressor, it sucks up the sand, siphon part of it, and that it blasts with that. So this is really a like a steam. It's a blaster, right? So it's not carving. It's it's doing some surface etching kind of stuff. If you're curious, it's on our website, but so it needs an air compressor, obviously, right? So we need an air compressor to hook this to. The recommendation is something larger than 1 horsepower, at which you can get a 1 horsepower air compressor for not that much, usually under $100.
Okay.
So then a lot of times what people ask me about air compressors is they want to know about what size it is. So a lot of times people are concerned about the tank size, like how big is the tank of the air compressor. And so the way air compressors work is they fill the tank with air. So if you have a bigger tank, you have longer work time before the motor kicks back on and runs. And then so a lot of times when you're buying, if you're looking at, like, we don't sell air compressors, but if you're buying air compressors, that's where the cost comes in a lot of times. If you get like a big 33-gallon one or something, or if you get some big 3 or 4 horsepower one, again, you don't need anything really too big. I mean, you can get what's called a pancake air compressor. They're little small ones. They're usually a horsepower. They have small tanks, usually like a 6-gallon or something. But the only thing is, like I said, if you're doing a lot of sandblasting, the motor will just run, and I don't know if the noise will drive you nuts.
Yeah,
or
they're
not,
pretty loud. That's the only thing.
that would be the only thing that I would think about. So it's nice if you have a bigger, if you have a bigger tank, but. Yeah, so they recommend like somewhere between 15 to 50 CFM, which is cubic feet per minute. Again, if you're looking at air compressors, they'll give you those 3 bits of information: the horsepower, the CFM capabilities, right? How much pressure it's pushing out, and then the tank size, how much air does it hold, and that's in gallons. Always they refer to it in gallons. We unfortunately, well, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but here we don't have an air compressor. We have an air compressor, but it's in the warehouse, and it's a big, huge one. And so we have an air line coming in, and so I am going to hook this one up in a little while, and I'm going to show you how it works. So you can't see the air compressor we have, and I can show you the settings on it, but we're not going to be able to do that because it's somewhere else. So, it's also I'll just show you real quick. It's the gun looks like this, which is nice. So the nozzle is made of ceramic. And obviously, blasting through it, you're going to wear out the nozzle. And this one, I know when you buy it, it comes with a couple of different nozzle replacements already. But I know for us, or even here at Delphi, it takes a while to wear out. I mean, if you're doing this every day for 8 hours, you might wear it out obviously much quicker. But here, I mean, we have that air compressor out there we've used for years, and
not ever.
I think I've replaced it one time, a nozzle on it. Okay. So, and even then, what happens is the nozzle, the opening in the nozzle just keeps getting bigger, and so you get a wider blast. So, which might not be a bad thing for what you're doing. It's only if you're trying to do some delicate kind of sandblasting, sometimes you want that, a little bit more of a precise kind of blowing, with the sandblaster. So that's the only really negative thing about that one, right? So
okay,
nice. This one, let me just show you real quick because there. So on this side of the sandblaster, this is a filter. And the filter was hooked on the inside, so it's one of those ones that you can just take out and kind of knock out any loose stuff and just put it back in. But what lots of people will do is just hook up a shop vac to this side here. And so you can just put in the nozzle of a shop vac, and then that will just really keep the cabinet. You'll see, because I'm going to use it in a second.
Yeah, it'll keep
it just keeps the dust down so you can see where you're going easier,
happening.
Right? So
because otherwise it gets real difficult to see.
Yeah, you have one. You have one at home, right? I mean,
I do.
You've used it.
You do too, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we have these at home. They come in handy.
Yes, they do.
So what can you do with a sandblaster, right? So you can do a bunch of things.
Yeah, you can.
And we wanted to. We just wanted to show you some of these different things. I
could have demoed this.
That's right. Can we do that?
Can we demo this?
Is that allowable?
Okay.
I think it's allowable.
How it works? Okay.
You can put some wine in it. We can put some grape juice in it. So anyways, you can see just some different glassware, right, that you could do. This one's monogrammed.
I know it's kind of hard to see
when they're so clear.
You didn't want to show the frosted one? Oh, just to show that you could just really do frosted.
Oh, is that what that was?
That's what that is.
I didn't know what that's what
that
was. Is it like a reverse one or like? I'll go grab it. Sorry.
No, I mean it's as opposed to using a stencil and just doing a small section. It's somebody. Somebody blasted the whole thing to make it.
So you sandblasted the whole thing, right?
To make it frosted, which is kind of neat. If you wanted to make a
cool.
a candle shelter out of it, or something.
What a great idea!
I think it's kind of cute, and I know I'm kind of stepping in because we don't really have a script anyway. So
that's probably not
But
obvious.
I can see the other things that I found that you didn't look, and you didn't bring them over, and I was just thinking at some point we should point out that you can do colored things, like colored.
Oh yeah, I just didn't grab it because we didn't have an example of it.
Right.
I mean, I know there's in the building somewhere. There's an example.
Well, I mean, do you want us to grab it, Kaylee? Because even metal, because sometimes metal is not, But so the idea here is we're thinking too in terms of Christmas is kind of what I'm thinking that. I'm thinking about I may be breaking mine back out and doing some of this stuff, but so you can monogram. This kind of thing, and this is just the metal color on the little thermos, or just a plain old red coffee mug. You could, what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, Let me go grab that one too.
And the blue glass looks pretty, and it doesn't always. And I just felt like it doesn't always have to be clear.
Sorry, we had samples of these things somewhere around the building. Couldn't always find them, but good point, because this is just a glaze coating. On coffee mugs, right? And so you can blast off the glaze coating, and then you see the color, which is usually some kind of, you can see that this is the actual color of the mug, right? This kind of light cream color. And then that comes through, which is pretty cool. And then as Val pointed out, a lot of times, especially on darker stuff like this glass, when you sandblast on that, it
just makes a frosted look, and so sometimes it's kind of fun to vary what you might think you can blast,
Yeah, for me, I know one of the, and you mentioned it too, is one of the great things is about personalizing it, right? I know sometimes in the glass world, it's not always easy to make something unique or make it personalized. So sandblasting is a great way of doing that.
Okay, so sorry I interrupted.
No,
now go back to how you put the stencil on, maybe?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about stencils a little bit. So, a little bit later, I'll show you this fused piece, but it's laying here on the table. I guess you can see it. Here we made the stencils. I just used a Cricut, right? I have a Cricut, and I had cut out this design and used this as my stencil. So the nice thing about Cricuts is that you can get these really intricate shapes. Like you can see these ginkgo leaves that got cut out, right? I could never have cut that out by hand. That would have been pretty quite the challenge. So, but the Cricut can cut that out. The other nice thing about this is you actually have two stencils here, right? So, here is there's a leaf here. So if I pull the leaf out, and I lay it on something in sandblast, then it's going to be this frosted area outside where the leaf is, and the leaf is going to stay shiny and glass looking, right?
So this is resist.
It's a resist.
You didn't say that?
Oh, I guess I didn't say it.
So you can't just cut ginkgo leaves out of anything. It has
I just
to
assumed
be
the cricket people knew it was vinyl.
Well,
so,
I know,
sorry.
cricket people might.
But you can see it's sticking to my finger, right? So this, as Val's pointing out, this is an adhesive-backed vinyl. The permanent one is what I usually use because they stick better. And I bought brown because it was like a cheap color that day that I was buying it. So.
Good.
But you also have this stencil too, right? So this one you could cut that out and lay it on, and then when you sandblast, you'll have a frosted leaf on whatever you're doing. So again, you could get 2 different types of stencils from just that one thing.
Well, Carol is asking, does this work for signatures? You could probably do a signature out of your cricket, couldn't you?
Man, I don't know.
I
guess it depends on the size of your.
So I don't.
I guess it depends on the size of the signature. If you're talking about doing, small, little, delicate-looking kind of handwritten stuff, I think that would be. You're probably engraving is the way to go instead of sandblasting. I think you would have a challenge trying to get a stencil that was delicate enough to still look like your signature. But
block letters, like if it was a signature.
Yeah, you could certainly do block letters. Yeah. I mean, you could do your name. I mean, even using the Cricut, you could probably do your name. It might not look like your exact signature, but you could certainly pick a font, as Kaylee's kind of pointing out, that's a little bit wider. So you can see the letters easier, or have something to peel out and cut and something to sandblast. Yeah.
I did that recently with the perfume bottles for my sister-in-law's wedding.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And we used the Cricut to do bride and the date, and we etched it and then sandblasted the other.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was pretty cool. So this is, as Val's pointing out, this is vinyl, right, with an adhesive on the back, so it sticks to the glass. So I just noticed we didn't bring any. What Delphi sells is we sell 2 different vinyl resists. One is clear, and the other one is white. One of them is 18 inches wide, the other is only 12 inches wide. So you can use whatever. And so I know at first we were like, well, why would you want white or why would you want clear? But it just depends on what you're doing. Sometimes the clear comes in handy if you're trying to see what you're doing and where you're putting it.
Yeah.
But they both work. They both work pretty well. The other thing we didn't bring was an X-Acto knife. You could cut your own, right? Nobody says that you have to, use a Cricut machine or use some other stuff. I mean, you can literally just cut your own stencils, which is what we used to do back in the day, right? Before we had all this easy stuff. So,
good.
And then the other stencil that we have access to, it's a special order item for us because, to be honest, the film, this is what this is. So this is a photoresist film, and it just has a shelf life. So it's, when you order it, we'll get it from the manufacturer. But this is a photoresist stencil.
Right, so this is an example.
Yeah, this is an example of here, or the blue is here. So it is... You expose this film to a bright light, which is what this is. This is made just for that, and it's a kit that we get. It's from Resist company, and so it exposes it to a bright light. You wash out the area, so the area that is where the light hits the film doesn't rinse away. So, hey, can you hand me that envelope right there? Or thanks, that folder. Thank you very much. Just so you have an idea of like kind of what it. This is a. So you would print on acetate. This goes on the photoresist. It's exposed with the light. And whatever black here is going to be clear here, right? So that's the part. So whatever clear here is going to be sandblasted, right? The blue part's not going to be sandblasted. So your design should be pretty easy, right? All these black lines will be the sandblasted part of the design. And I have it... Oh, you want to just grab one of these?
You're sure one of these?
Yeah.
Probably like this one,
Yeah, it's that exact one, yeah. So you can see the bird. Right, so this is,
Here's a bluebird.
There's a bluebird. I'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but you can see how the design then is, well, whichever way you want to look at it, right, is, that's that. It looks like that. Okay. Interesting.
Very interesting.
So I'm going to apply one of these just to show you. I think you get the, I mean, if you're cutting vinyl, you just have to stick it on. I actually did I had a couple of ginkgo leaves here that I stuck on this piece of iridized glass that I'm going to sandblast so you guys can see what that process is like. But this one's a little trickier. It is the photo film is blue, but it's on a backing. And so we have to, so I have to peel it. But usually what I do is you want to peel it off first. So I did kind of give myself some little cheater lines so I knew where I wanted to do this at. which doesn't surprise Val any. Probably.
No, not at all. I'm sure they were measured.
And then you want to, this is a burnishing tool, so you just want to rub that on so it's really nice and firm on there. Down here, really it's just the design that matters the most. And then, I don't know if you can see what I did on this one corner. I pinched it together so that it exposed the plastic backing, so then we have to get the plastic backing off. And usually what I have to do is start it again, because there it goes. And the film that I have here is...
It's older.
Yeah, it's older. It's been sitting around, so sometimes it's not as sticky. But then I just peel off this plastic backing, and that is on there. Now, where it's clear again is what's going to...
get frosted.
It's going to get frosted. Look, and sandblasted. This is... and there's a film there, but you'll see it blast off in the sandblaster. And then sometimes I just go back, especially, I don't know if you can see the Be Creative, it's pretty small and kind of narrow, so sometimes I lay the plastic back on it and just rub it again, just to make sure I got a really nice, what we're trying to do is get rid of air bubbles. So we just want to make sure that's adhered to the glass pretty good. There's also... this has all these little wires in there, and I'm going to run this over, and what that does is hopefully it pokes it just slightly. In fact, you can see it probably even tearing the clear there a little bit. But those little tiny little pokey holes I'm putting in is supposed to also help get rid of any air bubbles that might be trapped in there, because it really is a challenge sometimes. Like I said, if you have a really complicated design, to get all the air bubbles out, and I can see I have one.
So the idea, too, I don't know for people who aren't real familiar, is that you're trying to make adhere tight enough so that when you do go to blast it, none of it works its way up under where it's not stuck, because then it blurs your image. You know, you don't get a nice sharp
crisp line.
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so it is kind of important to make sure it's burnished down really tight, because otherwise, turning your gun different angles, you can kind of lift it if you're not careful. You could definitely
lift it, yeah. Especially I notice with the vinyl, I find, well, what's nice about this photoresist, it tends to stick pretty good. Sometimes the vinyl, it is easy sometimes, like you said, if the angle of the gun, you can get under it, and then it'll start lifting. So you just have to be a little careful. Well, you'll see I've got these really skinny, stems here on the leaves, so we'll see how I mean, I've done it before, but you guys just got to be careful and not go too crazy with it. So then I put that on there, so this one's ready to go. So the other thing we're going to do is mask off the rest of the bevels so we don't, otherwise we'll get overspray out here and that'll look frosted. I'm just using some tape. You could use masking tape. Doesn't really have to be, that part doesn't have to be anything too super crazy. This was, I know, some tape that the people that manufacture this, photoresist, this is what they recommended. But I've used, literally duct tape, I've used masking tape, I've used whatever. It all seems to work. And the point, again, is just to really just cover any exposed areas. And I've done this, a little bit. I've done the sandblasting, so I'm not going to cover the back because I'm going to be careful enough that I don't get any spray on the back. But if you're not sure, then just cover the back. It's not that big of a deal. Sometimes what people will do is they'll put this in a plastic bag. Like this one, for example, like if I was doing this one, I would put it in a big Ziploc bag and then just cut the opening and then tape everything down. That way I don't have to cover the whole glass with tape, right? That would take, it's time consuming. Yeah, I don't think I thought of that. I think somebody else did, but I'll take credit for it. I missed that corner a little bit. I folded down that one corner, so I just have to make sure I got it. And then excess tape, I just, whatever, just kind of stick it around, right, so that's on there. And then that one's ready to go. So I have that one, I have this one. So I thought, do you want to show? Yeah, let's show about all the other projects, and then we're gonna actually go.
And then the blasting will be the last thing.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's
show what you. Well,
do the
first of all, we talked about that. Another reason is you can use this with fusing. You can use it with stained glass. You could,
Oh yeah.
It's not just a fusible thing, which sometimes I think people tend to think.
Or it's not just making objects either, right? No. Sandblasting objects. So yeah. I have this little stained glass panel that I'm still working on. You can see I don't have the
frame on it.
I don't have the frame on it yet, but so Yeah, talk about that glass a little bit, right?
Your flash glass?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, do we sell flash glass still?
Well,
not on the website.
Not on the website, but if you come visit us, if you visit Delphi,
and
that's Creativity Center. Yeah, we actually have blue and red.
Okay. Flash glass is just a glass that is actually got it's two-tone. So this one's a blue on clear. So as he blasted off his pattern, it just took the blue off the glass and left the clear behind. So you can see it's just kind of, and like we say, we have it in red. At one time we had a red-yellow, I thought.
Yeah, that's what our Delphi sign is. But there's a piece of the glass if you want to see it. So it is a handmade glass. So it's hand-blown. This particular glass is made in Germany from Lambert's, if you've heard of them. So I know you can't really see it, but it's a thin layer of red over clear. And then you have to blast as Val mentioned, you blast the color off. It's handmade and comes from Germany, so it is
extremely expensive.
Yeah. I think it's around $75 or $80 a square foot. Yeah, so a little expensive, but I mean, you can do some really pretty unique things that you couldn't do otherwise, right? So I mean, to me, that's one of the fun things about it. You probably there's used a lot in church windows that you probably don't even realize that's what you're seeing. Where they don't, so I'm blasting off the color. Sometimes all they do is take a little bit of the color off just to give like a shift in a lighter blue to a darker blue.
Right, but here's the sandblasted. This isn't flash glass, is it?
They're both flash.
They're both?
Yeah.
Okay. But my point was going to be, you could still blast on something that's not, it would just be frosted instead of showing the clear underneath or the color underneath if it was a red on a yellow or something. But so I just wanted to make sure, because it still would be very visual and still look like a bird and still look like
you would still see it. Yeah,
it just wouldn't have that second color underneath it. So.
Yeah, this is a little more dramatic because it's clear underneath, but it looks frosted, and so it just the contrast is a little bit greater with the flash glass. But so so that's or stained glass, right? I mean, I'm getting ready to sandblast this bevel, so you could make your own bevels, right? I mean, you can custom your own bevels and incorporate them into your panels. Mm-hmm. I couldn't find that panel.
Oh, you couldn't? In the window?
Yeah, I was looking for one that we had hanging in the window, but it wasn't there to show you about. But you've all seen, I'm sure, frosted or sandblasted bevels with designs in them. Again, with a sandblaster, you can make your own, which I'm about to do.
Yes, right.
And then
fusing.
Fusing, right? So fusing a few things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to show that one first, then?
Yeah. So this one, I don't know if you can tell, we were going to draw a black line and we didn't do it, but the one side is shiny, and the other side seems to be more frosted. Can you see it?
It's showing pretty good.
Okay, so this was a fused dish we did that happened to devitrify in the process of fusing it, which basically is like a crystal growth that kind of affects the surface of the glass. So sometimes it'll do that and not come out shiny like normally we want it to. So sandblasting can actually help rectify that situation. So the whole thing was this frosted devit situation. Roy sandblasted this half, and then he refused it, took it to a fire polish temperature, which is around 1350, and it shines back up. So there's other ways to deal with devit, but if you have a sandblaster, this is the easiest way. You just blast off that scummy surface and then refire it, and the sheen comes back. So this really worked out nice. I like the difference. Yeah, you did good. Did good.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Val says I did good.
Okay, so then in the fusing too, we've used the sandblasting in kind of a little bit more advanced way too. Yeah,
so this is the ginkgo leaves. You saw the cricket vinyl that I cut out. This is 2 layers of an iridized glass. So again, if I were to sandblast this piece I have here, the ginkgo leaves will look like they're iridized, and the background will be black. So that's how I did that. On this one, the bottom piece is black with an iridized coating on it, and then I sandblasted that. The top piece is clear with an iridized coating on it, and sandblasted that, and then fused the 2 layers together. So that's where we're getting this, overlapping of leaves. One's on clear, one's on black.
Mm-hmm. It's a little. It's interesting. It's a pretty piece.
And then this is another one. We were. Was this our experiment? Your experiment with iridized coatings, right?
Right.
And fusing them coating to coating.
Yes.
So the two iridized coatings are facing each other.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
they are.
So again, the base is black iridized, and then sandblasted that. The top is a clear iridized. But in this one, we put the two coatings together because they don't really melt. They don't really fuse together. But it does really kind of create, I mean, it kind of accentuates the pattern that's kind of going on here, which is kind of fun. I'll let you. Yeah, I'll let you take a look at it.
Yeah, but there's lots of things. You can use it to like fix a problem. You can use it to personalize your work. You know, use a theme for whatever in a panel. I don't know. Sandblasters can be kind of fun to have to sort of take things a little bit to a next level or something. So.
Yeah, well,
let's take it out.
Let's show you how that works. I gotta wheel this one out. So, again, you'll see the airline when we get out there. Thanks, Val.
Which way are you going?
Just straight.
Well, I meant which doors. Oh. I'm going straight, always.
So we're out here where our furnace is at. So you can hear the furnace running. So I don't know how much noise it's making, but so you know, again, we just have an airline. Coming to our compressor, which is in the back of the warehouse. And I was mentioning to Kaylee earlier when we were talking about the setup here, one of the slight issues that we have is I can't adjust the pressure. I mean, I could if I went back to the big air compressor, but other machinery in the building is using that same air compressor. So, and then we don't have a regulator on this line, so it's just coming right from this. And my point is, it's a little too strong. So when I use it, you're going to see probably a little bit of dust come out from around the cabinet. It's just because the pressure is too high. I mentioned in the other room, I mean, you don't want to go more than like 80 PSI, and that's pretty high. And most of the time, we're only at 40 or 30 PSI. And I think this line is over 100, if I'm not mistaken. So let me just...
Oh, wow.
I know.
I hope it
doesn't... No, it's all right. It's not going to like blow up.
I hope it doesn't airlift out of here.
Yeah. I got to push it in so I can just...
Here, I can hold it.
There it goes. So that's one reason why you can hear it. You can hear it kind of...
Hissing.
Yeah, hissing because of the pressure is just a little too high.
You might not be able to with the furnace going.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, they might not be able to hear it. All right, so I'm going to put this in.
Let Kaylee see how you put it in there.
So it's got that, you know, grate in the bottom so that the glass or your piece sits on that, and then the abrasive is below that. Oh, I didn't really talk about the abrasive. So the abrasive is aluminum oxide. That's really what you want to use. Main reason why is because aluminum oxide, if you can see the individual particles, they're really jagged, and when they hit a surface, they break apart, but they stay jagged. You know, we call it a sandblaster, but sorry, I got something in my throat today. We call it a sandblaster, but we're really not using sand. You know, sand is shaped like little cubes, and as it hits surfaces, it knocks the corners off the cubes, and eventually the sand turns into round little balls, which don't blast as well as sharp things, if that makes sense, because they'll just bounce off the surface. So, aluminum oxide. We sell it here in 5-pound containers. I have 10 pounds in here at the moment. It's probably a little easier if I had probably 15 pounds, but I didn't put it in, but we'll see. So,
I'm going to open it really quick to show.
Oh yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, and you can see how I got my hands in, right? So then I'm going to grab the piece, grab the gun. So the nice thing about the gun is it has a trigger on it, right? So all I got to do is squeeze the trigger and it will go. So yeah, you'll probably want to close it.
Sorry guys, didn't mean to make you dizzy.
And then yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, I apparently don't have enough sand in there.
You don't have enough in there.
Yeah, you can see that it's not, well, I mean, you can see it's not blasting.
Sometimes you have to tip it. If you right?
Yeah, what really happens on these is that, yeah, you can't really see. I mean, it looks the same, right? So I'll show you on the other sandblaster real quick. It's, so since it's a siphon and all the sand kind of goes in one spot, sometimes you have to like rattle the bottom a little bit. to get the sand to fall in the right direction. That's why I found a little bit more sand is better than exactly the amount of sand you need. So,
because then it tends to not siphon all the way out before you use it.
Yeah, before you can, and then you can work with it longer. So apparently that one's not gonna. I need a little more sand.
But it showed how it works. That's good, and it shows that the little hand things. Those are cool. Those are cool. It looks kind of like Lost in Space hands. You know?
I don't know. People know that.
Roy's now hooking it up to the Resist Sandblaster, which we also sell on our website as special orders.
Let me get it on here. There it goes. So the biggest difference between the two sandblasters is this one is what's called a pressure pot sandblaster. So if you see this unit right down here, this is a pressure pot. So what happens is the sand goes in here, and then the air comes to the pressure pot and puts pressure there. So that's what's forcing the sand up. So it's not siphon, so it's not just sucking the sand up, right? So it has its advantages. I mean, one of the best is that we can adjust the pressure. So, you know, the higher the pressure, the more aggressive it's going to blast. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, I'm at 40 PSI, and usually I think the most I've gone is maybe 60 when I was really trying to blast through something. So usually we don't have to do a whole lot with that. This one also has, there's a switch here that'll turn on a light because the cabinet's kind of dark here. And it also reclaims all the abrasive, and so you're going to hear this fan come on when I turn it on.
Also, really quick before we do
Is that too loud?
Mike is saying, can you show the sand set up in the bottom? Does the hose just sit in the middle of it?
Oh.
I don't know if we can actually see.
Well, the bottom doesn't actually come out. But
Yeah, well,
I guess it should. You could lift up that corner.
yeah. I know, it's kind of tricky. It's hard to pick it all the way up because of the hose. I don't know if you can...
Well, if you can just pull the corner up,
Yeah.
she'll be able to
I know,
see.
can you kind of get in there? Can you kind of see it?
Oh, there it is.
Right? You see how the hose just sits in
Yep.
there? And you can see how much sand is there, right? So really, the sand should be like kind of covering that a little bit more so that when it sucks in, it's got more sand to suck in. Is that...
So you also, this one, the Resist is a little heavier duty. I mean, so this one just kind of...
More for hobbyists.
Yeah.
This might be for a studio.
This will carve, actually carve. This one won't. This one will just blast off surfaces and do a nice job. This one will actually give you some depth in the carve if you need it, right?
Oh, yeah.
I got this one.
Oh, you got it for me? Great. So I'm going to turn on the light, and it's the again the system that reclaims the dust. And so what this one does is not as you won't see a lot of dust just flying around inside the cabinet because it's sucking it all into the back, right? You can access it from either side. There's a door on either side. It's set up for right-handed or left-handed, so this is where the hose is at, but I could put it down here. So if you'd rather do it left-handed. This particular one of the greatest features of it is I can raise or lower the whole thing. So I don't know if you can see how it's going up, right? And then I can bring it down. So you can adjust it to your height. You want it to be, you know, like if you bend your arms, that's about where you want it to be. So it's a little high for me. I got a little excited with it. So then I'm going to come in. Here's so it's not a gun, it's just a hose. This one works on a foot switch, so there's a foot switch down there. So
and it doesn't cover your hand.
Yeah, so here's the thing. You'll notice I don't have any gloves on, right? So this particular system, the manufacturer says you don't need to wear any gloves. So you'll notice that these, you know, they're not gloves, they're hollow, so I can stick my hands in. I mean, you certainly can wear gloves. It won't damage your skin. I mean, if you had nail polish on, it would take your nail polish off probably, so that'd be a reason to wear gloves. But other than that,
yeah.
So.
I'm glad that's why you don't wear it.
That's why I don't wear nail polish, right? All the sandblasting. So when I first turn it on, this one is going to just blast out a lot of sand, so I usually do it somewhere else in the cabinet. And then once that kind of settles down, we'll come in. I didn't do the whole thing on purpose because I want you to see kind of the difference. And I'll peel this off in a second, but let me do the bevel real quick.
Here, I'll get it. Oh,
I got it. So you can see what that's like. So you want to hold the nozzle about, 8 to 10 inches away. So I don't want to be this close, right? Maybe if you were really carving or wanting to carve it, you could get closer. But for this, we're just going to, you want to be a few inches away. You want to stay parallel to the surface. That's it.
Pretty slick, isn't it? Pretty fast.
So this one's, I think, really easy to see, right? I mean, you can see I didn't sandblast that part where the earth coating is, and you have all of this, right? And then when I peel off the
yeah, pretty.
then you can see how, and then that's, left like that. Now, you can leave it frosted. You can, sometimes people will wax that part so that it looks a little shinier, but it's more like a satin finish. And then this should just come right off. A lot of times I usually do this under, at the sink, and get it wet, peel it off. That's usually better. But we're just going to do it here. So usually the whole stencil comes off.
Yeah, looks good.
So obviously, like inside the P and inside, the letters, the stencils there, you don't want to do anything with it now. Like, I don't want to just take my thumb and rub those off, which I could easily do, because there's sand on here, right? There's some aluminum oxide, and you don't want to scratch it. So that's why, really, like these, or if you're doing something on clear, like the clear drinking glasses, you should rinse all that stuff off as you're peeling the stencil off. This one, some of these other things not as important, but
yeah.
But you can see. So
good. Nice. Yeah, I think you did good.
Good, great.
Yeah.
Well, as always, if you have questions, you can always reach out to us later, right? You can email us at facebook@delphiglass.com, or you can message us on Instagram, or here on Facebook. You can leave a comment below.
And just to point out, this was a viewer request, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, somebody asked us about this one. So, again, if you guys have ideas of things you'd like Val and I to do, I mean, if it's glass related, we'd be happy to. We'd be happy
if
to
we
do
know
it.
how to. We don't know how to do everything. So.
Yeah, so we'll be back probably in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Thanks.